takes us too long to speak up on something. And of course, people look at him like he's the biggest butthead ever, and he is, because it's all about business to him. And he represents everything that's going on. He's at the top, and the people at the bottom are his workers. So I don't identify with nothing he says. I don't listen to nothing he says. I just say people need to know what's good and what's wrong, and that's how we would get past keep having these future presidents like this. Because he's going to say anything, it's going to contradict no matter what. That's just what it is. He's a human, and he's going to contradict because he's a butthead. And that's why I said people take too much from that. It's like, how do you really feel? Do you really think you should be doing that? Don't be doing it because, the president, I follow the president. It's weird. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, the next thing that I noticed, were you in the streets as all this was going on?
Yeah.
Now, I know this is gonna sound weird. How was the police presence? Was there a noticeable police presence? Like when you look at the other incidents we had throughout the nation over the last, I'm gonna say 4 years, with that, where it got to that type of level, how do you think the police responded in your view?
All I'm gonna say is that's a hard one because I just said it shouldn't have been here in the first place. The police responded like anybody is trained to respond to try to disperse a crowd. Because you got to understand, it's like these moments are like the first shot fired, if you know what I'm saying. It's like everyone's talking, then someone throws a bottle, and then it's a big to-do. So the police disperse people. They try to disperse people the best they could, but the way the grid of our downtown is no way you can contain people in that area. They shouldn't have been in that area in the first place. So the police presence, yeah, they tried or whatever, but they pretty much like watch people get their head bust in for a while. Like seriously, like they was watching people get their head bust in. And I don't know, it's like they push people towards people, like they push the Nazis towards the militia, and then they push Antifa towards the other groups. And have you ever seen the movie Warriors?
Say the name of the movie again?
The movie Warriors. It's from the 70s. Where it's a gang in New York.
Yeah.
And you remember in the scene where he was talking to all the gangs? Like it's all you could tell which gang was which because they all was matching. I swear that's how that scene looked. Our whole downtown was like a bunch of gangs. You had militias, they got like AKs, they got subs on, they got like, whatever, grenades and stuff. Then you get these dudes, they got like...
No, stop. Hold on. I'm trying to get my head around this. So you looked up, so there's different groups of people who are dressed alike, apparently, and you see someone with basically submachine guns, AKs, grenades.
Yeah, they was coming in the stores, putting them in our face. They putting them in people's faces. I don't know why the news didn't report that. I mean, they were actually like, they going to restaurants and people like, you gotta leave. And they pulling them out on people. They put them out on my brother. He works at a restaurant called Raptures. And Raptures is like the coolest restaurant ever. They went up in Raptures. actually were going up in places, pulling guns on people, and that's what I couldn't figure out. I'm like, isn't that against the law? Because you can't go in a place and if somebody says you gotta leave, you can't pull your gun and be like, I have a right to be here, that is such and such code. I'm like, but bro, you have a gun and they have food. Don't,
And there was no police response for that?
no, the police were standing in their gear like one of those futuristic movies, like they was trying to look good with their shields and stuff. And then you had like certain cops sprinkled here and out. And the main thing that threw me is they had cops in plain clothes. But it seemed like I don't know, I thought they were with certain groups if you ask me. It was
Wow.
that
On Facebook,
crazy.
I made a joke. Well, not a joke, but an observation. I said, you never see Superman and Clark Kent together. You never see Bruce Wayne and Batman together. You never see Princess Diana and Wonder Woman together.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're superheroes. And they got to go with the cause. So, I was wondering, it didn't seem like when you had the stuff in Florida and Ferguson, Charlotte, North Carolina, D.C., you didn't see the same type of police response in Charlottesville. Even from seeing the media coverage, I could see that. And I was wondering, where were the police? And then I thought about it. They had to be superheroes. And you just kind of said plain clothes. Like, if you're plain clothes and all this is going on, how does someone know who you're with? So we have the people in the tactical military gear basically intimidating people, which is, to me, terrorizing. Then who were the people with the shields and it looked like Harley Davidson helmets painted white? Who was that group?
That's what I'm saying. It
I
blew my mind.
I did see that, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's two groups, okay? Then we had, I guess they were the ones, and they had crosses.
It's like the Lord of the Rings, like the Lord of the Rings type of shields. That's what I was like. I was like, they got people. I'm like, are they with Lord of the Rings and hobbits? I'm like, is a hobbit going to jump out somewhere? I was confused because it looked like they had just went to Walmart and spray painted like certain stuff. It was like, they actually did that. They went to our Walmart. Like, people was like, where did they get the clothes? I'm like, they went to our Walmart and all got matching clothes and went straight there.
Wow.
Let me give you the gist of this. Do you know who these people are? These people are people from online that met on chat lines. They get together in little groups and they all latched on to the thing about the Robert E. Lee statue coming down. And there was one actual historical society that was like, no, don't bring it down, don't bring it down. Next thing you know, all these other groups, they join on, oh no, we're going to Charlottesville, we're not going to let this happen. So that's why you have neo-Nazi, militia, the Lord of the Ring people, the Ku Klux Klan, the Patty Cake crew, I don't know what, bro. It was for real before everything popped off. It looked funny to me. Because it just looked like a bunch of idiots dressed alike just talking about a bunch of nonsense.
Okay. Did you see the people with the torches on that Friday night?
The torches was that was up University.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell you about the Rugby Avenue thing. Rugby Avenue runs right to the steps of our rotunda. And Rugby Avenue is where all the frat houses are, and that's where most of the racist students stay at. And it's like, they're like, oh, you can't come through here. So it was basically them coming from the frat houses, fighting other students. Because the guys from the frat houses, they go against the people in the dorms, because the people in the dorms mostly are minorities. You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
wow. So, so you have the people that meet up on chat lines, meet up with the people from the frat houses, and walk up and do that coming up through the dormitories, and that's, like you said, that's where most of the minorities stay are in the dormitories. So
yes, because you know the funniest thing, they told the students had one little party where it was a fight, and they told the minority students they can't even have parties anymore. Like they literally
wow.
have to have literally has to be super sanctioned by the school, but the frat houses go crazy. It's
So that's usually how it is on around most universities around the United States now.
now I understand that the party side, that's cool, but then when you kick in with the racism and the busting people's head and concussions change people's lives and stuff.
Yeah.
Like your Uncle Billy, he could have been a world-class singer. He went to one of their parties, got busted in the head. You can't figure out why he drew and he might drink all the time. People don't think about that. That's what's been happening around here. People getting busted in the head. People getting busted in the head with time. The crime, the one perk, what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander type of stuff.
Wow.
It's
I'm almost speechless because in my mind I'm putting this all together, and then when I think about listening to some of these people say that this was just the beginning of them doing this, like you being through it and seeing everything happening, the people that's listening, if you had to tell them one thing that you learned from all this, what would it be?
one thing that I learned from all of this. I have to say this. In times of great need and turmoil, a lot of times, like the hatred that you seen, the underlying love that people started showing was even greater. And it's like, it happens like that, like in times of destruction or whatever, people would just start coming together. And like, people used to
Mm.
walk down the street, wouldn't speak. Now people are like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Because like the people, I don't think the world really like knows how it was. It was like, okay, you have a group of black people over here and they fighting against them. And next thing you know, it's like people that you didn't think were on your side were fighting. I mean, it was like elderly people too. They busted people in the head with sticks and everything, but they like dude told me, he was like, I got you, brother. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's cool. Cause you really didn't know who was who. And that was the only thing about that.
Yeah,
Like,
and
you didn't know who was who. That's why I said that whole situation, I felt like nothing came out of that because you don't know who was who.
yeah, because I think that's my first time in history, in modern history, other than seeing like a real war, like a World War footage, seeing fights against fights in America on that level of defending civil rights. Because at some point, I think it flipped over from General Lee's statue to a civil rights issue with the chatting and all that, and the whole clashing. And that's the one thing I couldn't understand too, because I just looked like a lot of people jousting back and forth and fighting amongst each other. And like you said, you did see the different. I think that was a good term you used, the Lord of the Rings people, because their outfits stood out so much. You saw them seem like they were the most battered out of the people. Am I correct?
Yeah.
What do you think the government, your local government, is going to do? Do you think they're going to give out any more permits for for hate groups to do marches, because I understand the freedom of speech, but at the same time, if that freedom